It really comes down to being willing to take a risk and to understand how you can dramatically change your brand in the minds of the consumer. And we had a few rough years, kind of 2006 through 2008. Were not great for our business in the U.S. The international side stayed pretty strong. But we finally reached the conclusion that in the minds of the consumer, we were an adequate pizza delivered quickly for a fair price. Right. And that just wasn't good enough. We had always felt like we needed to focus on our strength and our differentiation, which was the service. But there was always that big hill that we knew we had to take, which was around taste and never waste a good crisis. Right. And things were tough, and it's it really moved us to action. And so we changed everything about our core product. If you think broadly, I mean, people have a strong bias against risk, and it's driven into people from a young age. I mean, you think about the medical community. You start with the Hippocratic Oath. First do no harm, right? That's about don't do something if there's any risk that doing something will cause a problem. The legal community, your liability goes up by doing something rather than not doing something. I mean, all through everything we do as leaders, our job is to break through that, to make sure that people understand that innovation comes with some risk and that's okay. It's okay, acceptable. It's okay to fail. But you see it through everything. I can get into sports. There is a strong bias against taking risk, and it's a very damaging thing. And as leaders, it's our job to break through that for our teams.
We got very nervous in 09 and 010 that intentionally or inadvertently, a lot of the feedback that was coming out of the administration in Washington and out of the policymakers, it seemed to be discouraging everyone from taking risk. And if you don't take risk, like every business, I mean, Tom Monahan took a lot of risk in 1960, right? And every business that started, many of you in the room, I'm sure, started your own businesses, or you work for businesses that were started in some way, shape, or form by somebody taking some risk, right? And I feel like it almost became a bad word to say, oh, well, no one should take risk anymore. Banks won't lend money to anyone who's a risky loan. If there's a banker in the room who basically thinks they only are allowed to make good loans because of pressure from Washington, they're going to make no loans, right? And I think that's the challenge we have, is that the community that we need to be getting capital to is actually starved right now. So even those who are willing to take risk can't get the capital to do it now, right? Create an environment where the people feel empowered and can take some chances. And as much progress as we've made, we think at our company, people are still a little afraid to fail because the old culture was so based on if you failed once, it was potentially fatal to your career there. You can't just say it once and fix it, right? And you have to lead from the front by doing it, saying we're willing to change it, we're willing to take those risks. And by the way, if we fail, you as the leader accept most of the burden of that, and if it works, you spread the success around as broadly as you can. All the obvious things, right? It's not rocket science. It's just creating an environment where people aren't afraid, and you make sure that it's measured risk, right? It's not. It's appropriate risk. It's not. And it's rare that companies have to bet the ranch, right? It's pretty rare. If you've gotten to the point where you have to bet the ranch to save the company, then you made a bunch of other mistakes already that it may be too late to correct, right?